Yeah, Nancy Nancy Windheart is going to open for us tonight. Nancy has a piece in this section because this section tonight that we're gathered around is what we know in our bones. And she'll be reading from it later. But I also want to say, by way of introduction, that Nancy has been a really important guide for me. At our last launch event, I read from my essay about being with the whales in Baja 8 years ago, with a guide who communicated with whales and communicated with those whales. And Nancy was that guide. She was our main liaison with the whales on that trip. Nancy has also guided me expertly through a whole series of cat challenges and losses. So I kind of thought, who better to guide us into the realm of what we know in our bones than Nancy Windhart.
Thank you, Lisa. It's an honor to be here and to be here with all of you. And I'll just say that I will never, as long as I live, forget the look of joy on Lisa's face and the sound of her laughter as she was drenched in that whale's blow. So, ah, as we were sharing a little bit before we began recording, I know that we come to this gathering, whether we're writers or readers or both, many of us, with all of the awareness of everything that is unfolding around us. And with all of our grief, our sorrow, sometimes our fear, and our awareness of the multiple crises and the horrors that we're facing in this time. And I know that also that for so many of us makes us long to open and create even deeper connections with those of all species. And it seems, at least I know for me, that the more my heart breaks, the more I also want to deepen those nourishing connections and to honor beauty and joy and love in all its forms and in all of the ways that it touches our lives. And so these writings and these gatherings are one such connection. And so as we come into this circle together, let's just gather our energy together with a short practice. And you're welcome to, if you prefer to have your cameras off or close your eyes, whatever feels best for you, to just center our energies and open our circle here together with each other. So take a moment to just let your body settle wherever you're sitting, bringing our awareness to our physical form, taking a breath, softening and deepening. And as we let our bodies settle, we can remind ourselves of our ongoing and ever present connection to and with and through the earth and all she holds, through our feet. Bringing our awareness to our feet as we connect. And that just reminds us of our path as two-leggeds here on this earth. And our connection. And as we bring our awareness to our breathing and we exchange that energy with all of the beings, not only in our immediate presence, but in our environments, in our homes, the land that we share, remembering that even that simple act of respiration, which is, of course, as we know, not simple at all, but always with us as long as we are alive and drawing breath, that breath and that respiration is a sharing. We're taking in the oxygen, the energy that has been breathed and shared and released by others. And then we're releasing it to be taken in as well by those who can receive it. I'm just going to pause for a moment and let my cat out of the closed door, which he hates. So from this place of being anchored and grounded in our bodies, in our breath, we can bring our attention to our circle here. And such gratitude for each being gathered here of all species. Honoring each of the human beings gathered here and our common intention to connect more deeply with all life and to walk our paths with grace and respect and openness. And welcoming into our circle also all of our more than human kin of all species, those who share our homes and our families, the wild ones on whose land we live, all of the beings of the earth who grace us with their wisdom and their presence. And offering our gratitude and respect to all of the souls who are gathered here as we connect in this vast and open field of awareness. Thank you all for your presence here and for your hearts and for all that you'll be sharing in our time together tonight.
Thank you, Nancy. Before I introduce the readers, I just want to say a word about the theme that we're gathered around this evening, the theme of knowing. We devoted 3 issues of the journal to the question, how do we know? And I actually can't think of a more important question to be asking, and it goes to the heart of Dark Matter's mission, because we explicitly call for materials informed by the kind of knowing that is greeted skeptically by institutions, most institutions of higher learning, um, maybe most institutions in general, um, dreams, visions, communications with non-human beings in other realms, knowing that comes more through us than from us. And I actually can't think of a better example of that than the gorgeous prayer that opens the book by Kim Chernin, which ends with the words, Mother of God, Mother of us, Mother of what is, restore us. It's part of a larger piece called A Prayer for Healing. And in the notes that accompany that piece, Kim says she cannot really claim the words of the piece as her own, that she was in a trance-like state when they and the whole long piece they're part of came through her. And in fact, she didn't even really understand at first what she had written. So, yeah, the question of how do we know and what kind of knowing is valued? All of the readers that you will hear tonight are drawn from those 3 issues of the journal, all except for our very first reader, Yehudit Silverman, whose work is in Songs of Undoing. That's the work that we'll be celebrating in 3 weeks on June 8th, and Yehudit couldn't make that date. So she's here tonight, and as a matter of fact, I think her work also fits well under what we know in our bones. So each reader has only 5 minutes, but we've given some extra minutes to Deena Metzger because of her special status and the founding of the journal. In fact, the journal would not exist without Deena. So I figured the least I could do is give her a few extra minutes. She'll be the last reader. Yehudit will read first and be followed by Hilary. Giovale, Melissa Kwasny, Andrea Mathieson, Anne Bergeron, Nancy, and then finally Deena. And after that, we will go into breakout rooms. So, Yehudit,
Lisa, excuse me,
yes.
I'm sorry. Do you want to just, I think we have some new faces here tonight. Do you want to say a few rooms about what the breakout rooms are, what they're
Why don't you
intended?
do that, Kristen?
I knew you were going to do that. Okay, so typically, as we're doing the breakout rooms, it's an opportunity for our writers slash readers to meet other members of the dark matter community. We wanted to provide an opportunity for people to share their reflections about what they've heard, ask any questions of the writer who may be in their breakout room, and just spark some conversation about the theme that we're exploring here tonight. So it's not meant to be a high pressure environment. Last time we did ask that if people wanted to leave the breakout room and maybe come away with one word that represents what you discussed or explored as a group, that might be interesting to share with the larger community. Did I miss anything, Lisa?
No, that's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Yehudit, it's you.
Hi, everyone. I'm very honored and humbled to be a part of this anthology. And even though my poem is not technically in this section, I guess what I know in my bones is that I need to learn how to respond to hate. Hate that comes at me and hate that's internal and festering in the marrow of my bones. So the first piece I'm going to share, I wrote a few days after October 7th and the attack on Israel and the devastation in Gaza. And it was an immediate, visceral response that in some ways did come right from inside my bones. I was published in Tikkun magazine, and I think this piece allowed me to express what I needed to express, and then later to write another poem that was included in this anthology. Israel, Gaza. It's the teenagers dancing, skirts waving over desert sands, electronic music, arms open to the night sky. It's the elderly grandmother walking slowly with her grandson, unsteady on their feet. It's the pregnant woman lifting a glass of red pomegranate juice to her tired, chapped lips. It's the way the rabbi holds the Torah as if it could save him. It's the way the imam bows, prayer on his lips. It's the weight of a baby's head. Whose blood is worth more? You want me to choose, to remember the ashes, the ovens, the way I was spit on in first grade. You want me to wear my Jewish star as a weapon, or to rip it from my neck. Either way, you lose, we lose. A small country, a desert, the scent of olive and lemon trees, the ghost of Abraham lifting his knife, the sacrifice of children. You want me to be certain, to end on a good note, but I can't. Hineni, I am here. The next poem I wrote was a few months later, and this is the one that's included in the anthology, and I think offers the possibility of hope. Refugia. Refugia is a scientific term referring to places that become safe spaces for organisms and life to endure in the midst of upheaval. The Arabs used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is. Naomi Shahab Nye, red brocade. The night of 1,000 stars won't keep you safe as you run on desert sands. Let me tell you about the prophets, yours and mine, how they listened to the poetry of the Persian lynx, how they kept each other warm night after night. Blessed be the stranger, the one you don't know, whose body is still, whose breath is gone. I have no purpose now but to offer you bread, wine, a wet cloth to cleanse your wounds. You have no purpose now but to offer me the same. How did we end up here, fighting for a piece of this dry land? The night of 1,000 stars won't keep you safe. See the young lovers holding hands as the bombs fall. Hear the cry of a newborn babe lifted gently out of the rubble. Hurry, your plate is waiting. Hurry, soldiers can't tell us apart. Our Semitic curly hair like snakes slithering down our back. If only we could stop running. There must be a place, a refugia, where both of us are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Yehudit. The next reader is Hilary.
Thank you. I'm also honored to be included in this anthology and grateful to be with y'all this evening. And it's been really sweet to go back and reread this piece because this was written in a time in my life when I was going to this place on a regular basis. And during the pandemic, when we were all in lockdown, this place in the creek that I'm writing about was completely overrun with human activity. And so much trash was left there. It was just devastated. And the Forest Service closed access to the place in order to let it recuperate and heal. And so it's like a special memory to think of that chapter in life before the pandemic and everything that's happened since. And also, I'm grateful I've been able to find new places because I can't access this one anymore. So, so here is a little bit of this piece called The Blood Knows. She begins the lessons with sparse words. No human being will teach you what you need to know. Instead of employing lectures, reading guides, and webinars, she steers me by the heartstrings month after month to a flat red sandstone surface hidden by trees and grasses along the side of the creek. She guides me to lie down with my aching belly upon cool rock. The pulse and flow of the blood excitedly chatters with the creek's rushing water in an ancient tongue my mind cannot grasp. When I'm lucky, though, I eavesdrop on bits of their conversation through the ear of my heart. The class inevitably begins with tears. Its curriculum is based on detoxification. Thus, sobbing is a prerequisite. It doesn't matter which topic opens the doorway to tears. There are many readily available tragedies to mourn. It could be stolen children, mass extinction, climate change, white supremacy, historic and current massacres, the trash floating downstream, or even just the cognitive dissonance that's part of mothering two children in times such as these. I sob face down, spilling tears onto the rock, tears that first come cloudy, polluted, and toxic. These tears conduct energy between the sandstone and me. When I visit this place in this sacred state of being, I am received with timeless, unconditional love. Over time, this place and I have come to a mutually beneficial understanding. I come with offerings in hand, willing to cry with her and listen to her. Overwhelm, poison, rage, and grief, all symptoms of daily life in the Anthropocene, are gradually absorbed into the depths of earth. Somehow, in a way I know but don't yet understand, earth combines these emotions with moon time to make compost that nourishes new seeds being carefully planted in the dream time. The sandstone being now sighs and shifts her weight underneath me. Earth's human children are malnourished these days. They hardly ever listen anymore, and they usually come as orphans, hungry, lost, empty-handed, and demanding. Yet, as it is in her nature to be generous, she begins sending nourishment back to the human who has come here to do her work. Warm, pulsing, ancient stone knowledge emanates from her, and watery music cleanses the residual static. As though waking from a dream, I remember again what it is to be connected. With the detoxification well underway, I am drawn to sit upon a round gray stone planted solidly in the middle of the creek, surrounded by rushing water on all sides. Now is the time for listening. What is needed, I ask. Without fail, the answer comes. Look around you, child. Look at this beauty. Here are my red dragonflies, my golden monarch butterflies. Listen to my abundant, sparkling waters flowing from snow at the mountain's peak to the north. Look at the green leaves all around you, child, digesting the light of this great star, the sun. Look up. See how the waters find their way out of the cracks and crevices of the red rock walls towering over your head. My waters know how to travel. My waters have been in relationship with all of your people throughout time and space. My waters are your body, your ancestors, and your blood. Your blood holds the memory of these waters since the beginning of time. My heart blossoms, a song asks to be sung. Sometimes the songs are carried wordlessly on the wind. Other times they are made of primordial human languages I barely understand, but know nonetheless. When the songs come, I no longer have to strain to overhear the ancient language of the blood and the waters. We become one language. Tears flow again, and this time they run clear. They fall into the surrounding waters, mingling with mossy stones and tiny fish. Longing becomes the medicine for restoring memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. Longing becomes the medicine for restoring memory. I like that. Our next reader is Melissa Kwasny.
Thank you, Lisa. It was a privilege to work with you over the years.
Yes, I should say that Melissa has served as poetry editor for Dark Matter for the Journal several times in a row, and it introduced me to poets I would never ever have gotten to know without you.
It was a privilege. It was fun too.
Yeah.
The three poems in the anthology, which is beautiful, ended up being 20 different prose poems in a series called Another Letter to the Soul, that was published in a book in 2017 called Where Outside the Body is the Soul Today? And they're written as letters to the soul. And what I found was, as I was writing these, that the soul, contrary to what we think, wasn't something deep inside as much as it was something I saw in others, in animals, in plants, and waters, as you were saying. You picked me from the litter as a brightness, rubbed me between finger and thumb. You placed me, and the bees who are like spirits came. You gave them, through me, a place to come to. You provided me with properties, inaudible spells, invisible arrows that point to the hurt places. Illness of my friends, her failing liver, his failing nerves, earth drought, flood, the poisoned animal. I know you have been testing me, first toughening the fragile frame. Inside an infant cries and objects. You kept me apart like the bald eagle found floundering in the river and put into the feeding cage, long enough to gain its strength back, and then it fled. I admit I didn't know that a broken wing could right itself. I forget about healing, though I grow fonder of birds, the poor nieces I can afford to bring the berries to. Sun's out, you say, serving its broth of light. The watercolorists are happy. They've picked their views and are sitting, barely moving, in long-sleeved shirts. Mystery and clarity is what they aim for as an achievement. You speak in the variations of wind. Upper reaches of the cottonwood, its adolescent limbs spurred on and off into a froth of soundings. Anxiety of ground shadows as wind passes among the leaves. It stops and the tiny insects descend. We experience you only in your arrivals, not departures, so strong you tear the tent from our hands. And yet your remains are tender, broken and soft, as if strung with beads of dew atop wet sand. Each one of us suffers, small things and joys. All of us are aging, having watched each other age. What are the past lives of the wind? It cycles through the channel where the deer carcass stinks, where dinosaur bones protrude from the ancient banks. Water, mint, water mint. The braided currents at the bend of the nearby stream, their fluid consonants. The granite boulder like a sibyl behind summer leaf, shade spattered with lichen and moss. Gaston Bachelard writes that in human reverie, the rock imagines, not that we imagine the rock. How could we have come here, have accepted so much without having had a foundation to build on? So, soul as luggage, our library, perhaps our DNA. Entrance as noun, what we step through. Entrance as verb, how we are changed. What could we see if not movement? The sibyl measures each fish's weight against the blue root of her own. The leafage separates in autumn into its individual tones. We say autumn moves us, that it is moving, given the forecast, given how easily the subject can be erased. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Well, I often say this after listening to poets read their work, and that is that I'm hoping that this invites you to go to the journal and actually that poetry is I've read it so many times and I'm still straining at certain lines and oh God, I have to hear that again. So I'm hoping that you're encouraged to go back to the journal and read these poems after you hear them, especially poems like this that really do need to be read more than once. Thank you, Melissa. The next reader is Andrea, and I just, before Andrea reads, I just wanted to say something that feels really important to say about knowing, um, about the kind of knowing that you're hearing about tonight. And partly this is because I know a little bit about what you're about to hear from the next readers, but knowing that it's not conceptual or rational, knowing that comes from sources we can't validate, the kind of knowing that you're hearing about that you heard from Hilary and to some extent also from Yehudit. This is knowing for which women, not only women, but mainly women, have been burned. And more recently, not burned, but medicalized, medicated, institutionalized, and in some cases driven to suicide. I think it's important to remember that. Okay, Andrea.
What a sober, what a sober note to start on. And I want to say that places like this kind of community makes it safe to speak what we know in our bones. And I want to thank you, Lise, and the others who held space, Deena for me years ago as well, to risk the knowing. What I'm reading now is from the essay that I wrote some time ago called What We Know in Our Bones. And I'd like, as I've been listening to the rest of you talk, I realize that the parts that I'm sharing were written a few years ago when I was getting a sense of how terrible things were and going to different sources for information about that. What I'd like to say, though, now is that what I'm currently hearing and listening is not the terrible things, but the voices of hope, like green grass, that are emerging, the sense of the fabric of something shaping us, the sense of a new energy arising in me, so that when I'm in a conversation with people like you, and other friends and colleagues, some of whom are present this evening, there is a quickening that occurs in my body. I get what I call snake shivers, and it moves through me, and I go, there it is. That's the aliveness that is wanting to be made known now. So I say this because what I'm going to share does have some dark elements, and it's not actually where my listening is focusing these days. Here we go. We are at a pause point, a critical threshold, a blank rune, fate in our hands time. How we know, not just what we know, is the critical question. I agree with Biowa Komalafe, who audaciously suggests there are no solutions to all the problems in the world, that instead we must develop new ways of seeing. We are being called to find a different way to respond, a way that is natural, indigenous to each of us. Through the softly focused lens of my intuition, my imagination, and the sensations in my body, I've gathered wisdom from nature. And with only the slimmest of scientific validation, I've slowly learned to trust my instincts. Though I realize this way of listening has informed Indigenous peoples for millennia, our Western culture, as Lisa was just saying, has abandoned and forgotten these wisdom ways, partly because they are subtle, complex, and non-linear, and I'd add, and dangerous to the traditional psyche. Through sensual engagement with our body's wisdom and our immediate environment, we each have access to a wealth of information that can't be learned purely through a mental approach. When our hearts are touched and opened by a numinous encounter, some of which have been described this evening, with some element in the natural world, we feel its significance, even if we can't immediately make logical sense of what we know in our bones. And I'd add, that's often taken me years to integrate what I hear. Communing with plants. Over a period of 20 years, I received a uniquely personal training in how to listen to nature's wisdom. While intuitively communing with the plants in my garden, the flowers in particular, I was initiated into the art of deep listening. Creating flower essences, hundreds of them, gave me a legitimate excuse for developing an intimate relationship with them. Plants don't speak our language. When I was near a plant I wanted to commune with, I found myself dropping into a very slow and softened state of being. Communing with guides. Some of the most powerful advice I've ever received has come through an automatic writing with a spirit guide, actually a number of them. At pivotal times when I'm at the tenuous edge of a new phase, I'll sit with my journal and open to one guide in particular, her name's Iliadne, with a specific question. But this was back from a quote from the first time I communed with her in 2004. You're fritzing because you're not using your brain in the way it was designed to operate. As a metaphor, your thinking has been all air and very little love. You've gone as far as you can with one level of operating system. Learn a new one. She's my kick-ass guide. Earth messages for these times. In a recent meditative conversation with Gaia, and actually this is years ago, she said, any small step taken to engage with the hidden, withdrawn parts of my soul are tender comfort to me. Know that in your bones, I am listening. Your actions are not perfunctory. They go directly into the magnificent multitude of entry points in my body, my soul. Every rivulet is welcomed. And I found that to be so true, that when we listen, we are feeding her. And this is the message that was quite dark. I communed with COVID in the spring of 2020. And the virus said, as a contagion, I work with each of you in very specific ways, whether I touch you physically or not. I'm working with the entire fabric of humanity right now, having risen up through the vomiting outrage of the earth, into and through your sophisticated defenses. Now I say, get engaged, not in resistance, not in reaction to me, but within yourself. That's my deepest, most urgent call to you. Get engaged with what has grown numb, atrophied, buried, and forgotten. And I love this last part. Reach out across the airwaves through the heart threads of friendship. Beyond your own wise instincts, these heart threads are the most sturdy and reliable safety measures needed during these times. This is a gateway time with no reassurance from the past. What is being written now is of the future. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Andrea. Andrea has also been a guide, I should say that. Or your guides have been guides for me often.
I love sharing them. Yeah.
Our next reader is Anne Bergeron, who is also an editor of the book.
Thank you. I'm going to read an essay, one part of a three-part essay, and I'm going to summarize the second part. I'm not going to read the third part, but instead I'm going to dedicate it to the woman that the third part is written about, which is my great aunt Florence, who disappeared sometime in her 20s in the 1920s. The night thunder called. I inhale, I exhale. Every breath is a consummation with place. There was a moment when I knew this was true. I lived in a one-room cabin for 3 years alone. No phone, no electricity. I walked across fields, then a short path through a hemlock forest to get there. I carried all my supplies on my back. I hauled water from a spring on the hill above me. I snowshoed in winter and lay in tall field grass beneath the starred road of the Milky Way in summer. I walked barefoot, drenched in moonlight. I bled, urinated, and defecated into the soil. A great horned owl flew at me out of the darkness 3 times within inches of my face. I stood mindless, awed, unafraid. The night my life changed, I was reading at the table by the light of the kerosene lamp. The warm June air turned suddenly cold. Thunder rumbled, cracked, then roared. Lightning flashed through the room like a strobe. Rain as loud as clashing cymbals pounded the metal roof. Suddenly, I wanted to feel the storm all over and inside of me. I threw off my jeans and cotton shirt, pulled the heavy wooden door open, and ran naked outside into the rain, so cold that I gasped. I shivered and leapt down the woods path, my feet slipping in mud and over familiar roots, darkness punctuated by repeated flashes of light. At the gate to the pasture, I stopped, closed my eyes, turned my face to the sky, and opened my mouth. I swallowed mouthfuls of rain. As the rain slowed, I ran into the pasture, lifted my arms, and twirled and danced and laughed. I lay down and rolled on the slippery grass. I let the rain pelt my back and my legs. My tears soaked into the ground as I smoothed the grass with my hands, the hair on my arms and legs tingling. I could no longer feel my body. No part of the storm felt outside of me. In those moments, I knew that lightning, cloud, wet grass, heavy rain, and I were the same being. The spell of life had gripped me, and for once, I didn't shake myself free. Thunder called me to forget what humans had taught me. That night, my body understood that the risk bigger than my own death by lightning was not responding to that storm's summons with all the power that surged in me. Everything about this experience made sense to me, but I kept it to myself. The year was 1991. I was 26 years old. I could think of no one in my life to tell. The next day, I left and went away for the night and came back and was met 2 days later by my neighbor, who was a lovely gentleman, probably 30 years or so older than me. And he told me that he had seen a headlamp and a light up at my cabin the night that I was away. And he didn't want to worry me, but he thought for certain that someone had been up there kind of poking around. And what I started to feel was what probably most of us would feel as a woman living by herself in the middle of the woods, with no car that had pulled up, was this kind of sense of fear. And there were a couple of guys in town who had made some kind of suggestive comments to me at certain points. And so I responded to that fear and took my cast iron skillet that night up to bed with me in my loft. And when I woke up the next morning, I looked at it and just began to reground myself, did not like the look of it, did not want to sleep with a weapon in my bed, and decided that this was really what I knew in my bones and needed to live from that place. That night in the storm, my body had remembered the time before women were murdered for the power of their connection to the earth. As I made love to the rain, the thunder, the clouds, and the grass without shame and with intense abandon and pleasure, I felt complete love for myself, love for my love of the earth that birthed me, love for the earth that I will nourish in return with my flesh and bones and teeth and organs when I no longer breathe. Why is that? Even now, it's still a little hard to write. One day I will be buried on the land where I now live, where the roots of trees will find nourishment in my bones, where insects will inhabit my uterus and heart and lungs, where well below the ground new springs will well up and new life will blossom, fed by me as I was birthed and nourished by the earth. Until then, I will stand in place, my feet cool and damp in summer grass, knowing that here on this land is precisely where I belong, that the earth is who I was meant to love. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Anne. That was so embodied. God, God, I can't believe it. You're all keeping to your time limit, and we're going to end up having a long breakout room. So this is wonderful. Okay. But our next reader is Nancy.
So I'm going to be reading an excerpt from the piece that I wrote, which is called Aspen Ways of Knowing. From the time I was a small child, one of the guiding questions of my life has been, how do other beings know, understand, and perceive the world? In particular, I've been fascinated by trying to understand how beings of non-human species feel and know, and what these perceptions and ways of knowing and being can teach me and other humans. So this piece is about the apprenticeship that I was taken into by the quaking aspen forest in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains near my home here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And this was an apprenticeship, a study, a learning that spanned multiple seasons over the course of about a year. I've come to understand the aspen as one of the great consciousnesses of the earth. And as I've opened myself, their teachings and transmissions of energy and wisdom have astonished me, humbled me, and filled me with gratitude. September. I'm in the mountains on a solo hike. As I walk among the aspen, opening all of my internal and external senses in a kind of walking meditation, I sense a pulsing, a low humming, a vibration that I hear and feel with my entire body, though it is not audible to my ears. It's similar to the vibration that I sometimes feel in the ocean when I'm with the whales, or like the low frequency sounds that elephants use to communicate with each other across vast distances. The pulsing energy moves in my cells through the boundaries of my skin, and my whole body feels as though it is expanding in every direction into the space around me in the forest. I understand that I am being given an invitation to breathe with them, to feel their respiration, to sense their energy exchange with sun, wind, and sky. Aspen photosynthesize through their bark as well as their leaves, and to glimpse their vast awareness of time, space, and distance. I realize that if I try to allow my body to match their rhythm, slowing my breath down as much as possible, I'll be here for several hours, pulsing in and out with each wave. I also realize that I can't do that, or I'll be spending the night unprepared on the mountain. The moment this thought moves through me, I feel the aspen respond. Their rhythm speeds up, shifts just for a short time, just enough so that I can feel it in my body. They communicate this directly to me, working with my energy field so that I can more deeply understand and resonate with their frequency. I stop, open, and allow my energy body to continue to expand. My legs grow long, extending into the earth until they meet the aspen root, a long horizontal root from which the shoots of the clone arise. I allow my body to plug in, to join with the energy of this root system, to connect with its life force, its intelligence. I feel the aspen's vast understanding of long stretches of time and my limited human perspective in my small body, individual awareness, and short lifespan. I become aware that I'm in contact with, literally standing in, above, below, among one of the greatest, wisest, oldest consciousnesses of the planet. Whether old clones or young in our human conception of time, these exquisitely sensitive and aware beings are ancient elders who carry immense wisdom, vision, and perspective. I'm filled with an overwhelming understanding that my human viewpoint is so small, so limited. I can barely touch what the aspen know and hold. I bow my head in humility and in gratitude for the presence of these great beings. As I open to this awareness, I feel again the low hum, the vibration, so similar to what I feel when I'm with the whales. I look up, and in the fissure of the bark of an older stem tree, there is the image of a breaching whale. And that image is printed in the piece in the anthology. No wonder I feel the whales here, I realize. The aspen and the whales know each other, land and sea, and they swim in the same rivers of vast cosmic wisdom. Bark, skin, breath, life, joy, wisdom, grace. I walk with a prayer in my heart. Show me how to live with compassion, kindness, and joy. Teach me how to live purely, boundlessly, as the great ones of all species love. And I wonder, does it matter? Can it ever be enough? The aspens sing me their answer in the vibration of their trunks and leaves, in the flow of the ancient wisdom of their roots. Sing the song that is yours to sing. All beings must sing their own song. From the singing of our songs, a new world is birthed into form. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. I was there. I was breathing in the aspens with you. Ah. I want a bit of a pause because our next reading is going to be longer. So, and I have told Deena that, Deena appears in a lot of the different sections of the book, and I have told her that if there's one piece that she has to absolutely read in this event, it's this one, because I love it so much. So here's Deena. And you're muted, Deena.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lisa. And in order to read it, I spent yesterday turning it upside down and cutting it, and I reduced it to, less than half, then maybe much less than half that it was originally. And I think it works. I think it may be better. So
Wow.
how do we know? Dreaming another language. She will not kill. It is raining. I am writing in rhythm with the rain, and it is setting up a communication in another language. I have been speaking to, praying for the rain as I watch the land parch, watch the animals desperately seek water as the purple sage withered and brown. I began by praying that the rain would come, but we do not deserve it. Then I prayed on behalf of the rain. Such prayers require another language. I am not writing in a straight line. I am writing in a circle. If you write in a circle, there is a field within it. The field is the earth and the future. Here comes the rain. What needs to be offered so that the rain can be free to be itself? We must change for the land to be free, for the rain to be free. We must change entirely. We must change so that we do not live against the earth and we do not live against the rain. We must give our lives to the rain. I give my life. This is what the dream requires through its language from another world. It is a sacred message from spirit The dream comes in its own language to remind us that we have to learn this language so we will understand the dream, understand what we are being called to set right. Here is the dream. She will not kill. The dream came in another language. It came in a rhythm from another language and spoke of another world than the one we inhabit, an unknown world. I am the mother in a Spain of the imagination, and I am going to the teacher. I fall to my knees before her, as one falls to one's knees before someone one trusts implicitly. We are women in a Spain of the imagination. We have dark hair. Our faces are strong and clear. We wear black skirts and white blouses, but if we wore only black, you would not be surprised. I tell her that I've come about my daughter. She is the daughter. She will not kill. I will not allow it. She is a revolutionary, as we all are, as we must be. I tell the teacher with whom I am now collaborating, who understands everything, I will send the daughter away. She will go to another country, to a country of such women as we are or we have become. A country that forbids killing. Now I am, or she is, speaking to him. I am, or she is saying, no, you will not kill. He is a revolutionary. My daughter and he together, they will do what they must. They are here in this country, this Spain of the imagination, and they will leave without killing. Killing will not be the last act. I speak this to the teacher. She is seated on the single wood chair by the windows in a classroom, empty of children. I fall to my knees, and then I rise up. It is possible that I am also the teacher. It is possible that there is only one person in this dream, and it is myself. I am everyone in the dream as I must be, because it is a dream. And that is how the dream teaches us. There are no others in a dream. There is only what is being told us by the dream, which ultimately knows what needs to be known. This is the dream, a dream from a world of the imagination that birthed me. I was a young woman, and when killing, despite Guernica, despite World War II, despite Hiroshima and Nagasaki, was not killing the person, but an act that created another world. In such dreams of language, killing was a word, not an act, a word that led to another world, an act that had to end in a dream of life. To kill and not to kill were the same, because they created the world we had to create so that the killing would be over. It was a world I recognized in an imaginary literature Spain where I have never been. It was a world I was born into through dreams I do not remember that have rhythms that might be flamenco. In these dreams that are not dreams so much as patterns in other worlds where the women know what they have to know. The daughters are straight and tall, are revolutionaries in black skirts, have red lips and carry red roses, and will not kill. So killing is forbidden. That is how strong they are. The women say, this is what we taught you in dreams. You have forgotten you dreamed. The dreams that surface at this time in your life when you are asking, what is to be done? The rain is here again, like the tap of the heels of a woman who is dancing flamenco. She is dancing her life and her death to the music of the guitar whose chord slides down from heaven to earth, from her wild black hair into her pulsing groin, the bud of her clitoris within her red rose, arpeggio, crescendo. This is why she will not kill, why she will prohibit killing. She is like the rain. she returns, she persists. And so the earth will be restored by the insistent and persistent rhythm of her dancing heels, one phrase after another, in her secret language of the dream and the imagination and the rain.
Oof. That's kind of amazing that I'd forgotten it ends with restoration because I opened with that Kim Chernin line, Mother of us all, restore us, that also came from the unknown place. And hear these lines about restoring the earth through dream and imagination. And the women know what they have to know, but it's only in the dream that they know what they have to know.
It was so powerful a dream. I've never had anything like it. And it was not, it was of different realities, you know. And I tried my best to give the sense of it. Pleasure to be here to read it. Thank you.
Well, I know everyone has a lot to say, and we're going to go into breakout rooms so that we can talk to each other. And I think there's going to be at least one reader in each breakout room, Annie, if that works this time. And I just want to say, Kristen, did you have anything that you wanted? I mean, I always count on Kristen to do this thing that she does. At the end, she'll come out with this statement that somehow weaves things together. Did you have a thing that you wanted to say, Kristen? You're muted. And you can also wait till later.
Oh, Lisa. I think the one thing that is really present for me is the sense of in all of these readings, the dissolution of boundary between self and earth. You know, we so often talk about there is no separation. I think these writings individually and collectively are such a reflection of that truth with a capital T. I think everyone in one way or another has talked about the dissolving of body into earth. And it's just, it's really incredible. I'm so moved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Annie, what do you say? Do you know how many to make and is it gonna work okay?
Yeah, we have 25 participants. So how many breakout rooms do we
Oh,
want?
well, four or five. Four
Okay,
is probably enough. Four.
you got it.
Bye, Hilary. Thank you, Hilary. I know
Hi.
your
Thank you so much
daughter,
for
all of
having
that.
me.
Your
Thank you all.
that congratulations to your daughter.
Thank you.
Mm.
Well, that was real coitus interruptus in our group.
Yeah.
Oh my God, was that 15 minutes? I guess it was 15
Seemed
minutes.
that way. It didn't seem that way.
I think next time it has to be, but now we have more time to talk as a group. I think we should say the unfinished things together as a group. Hey, Rev Deli, I'm just seeing you. Hi.
Hey, how are you? I have an unstable connection, so
That's
I had to go
okay.
back off camera.
Oh, well, I'm so glad to see your name there and to remember you. And
Oh, I've been watching you in the shadows, and I said, "Oh, I need to be in this
oh,
conversation." And
great.
so I'm so happy. This is nourishing. I really need this.
Wonderful. So did, s- did, did people remember to come out with a word or I don't know.
No, we never got to that in our group.
No.
Uh,
Well, we didn't come out with a word, but one thing that I think was acknowledged was how all of the readings speak in one way or another to the notion of regeneration and restoration.
hmm.
I think in our group, someone expressed how she felt that no matter what the conversation was that she had been listening to, that there was the feeling of listening, deep listening, that this community provides. We're whether we're listening to each other or we're listening to an outside world or we're listening to an intimate form of nature in her many forms, like we want to listen, and that's important. Yeah. And someone expressed their great relief that we are here and that she found us.
I wondered if that was you. I said, I know that voice.
Yeah, so yeah, the relief that we're here. And the last time, Lisa, we had the last reading, there was a lady who was just a reader. I just say just a reader, that's not fair. She was only a reader, not an author in any other way. And she was so relieved to have the magazine, to have the book, to find our community. She was, oh, so relieved. And that was expressed again tonight.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for that word, relieved. I like that.
Mhm.
And hi, Dominique. I'm just seeing you. Good to see you.
Yeah, sorry, I joined a little later, so
Okay.
I hope you send a recording like you did with the
Oh,
last
yes,
one.
we will. We will have a
Great,
recording.
great.
What else? All right, should I tell what I told in our group? That I
Yeah.
spent this whole morning tripping
Yeah.
because I was taking a microdose. It was labeled microdose, but it wasn't a microdose. And I spent 2 hours in bed hallucinating. But it was really profound because I felt like a seer. I felt it's so amazing that this was what we were doing tonight because I felt like the women whose knowing was going to kill them and that they had no way to express it. I just felt like I was one of them. And believe me, I'm not like that in my other life at all. So just this, I'm just feeling really, I don't know, close to the women who haven't been able to bear what they know. And there's no place for them to go with what they know.
Mm. Mhm.
I have to say that Lisa's given more space to finding that area for people who are lost on the road than anyone I've ever met. So I thank you for that, Lisa.
Mm.
Well, Deena
Remarkable.
does that too. I think I got a lot of that from Deena. That was the first community that I was part of where, this kind of knowing was truly revered. and pulled out of us.
Yeah, I could believe it. The thing that's startling to me is how there's that common voice of the girl we grew up with in each of the poets and writers and journalists who present in this book on dark matter, and the other voices that they are in touch with and find that there's a really nice bridge between what the reader already comes with and where you're leading your readers in so many new ways. And I love it. I think it's a kudos to everybody who's contributed to this marvelous book. I look forward, like I say, taking it to the grave with me if I can't get it done sooner.
Thank
It's
you,
the
Misha.
kind of book you don't really want to get done with sooner. I don't have any feeling like I'm in a big rush to get it done because I want to be able to reread, listen, and then reread. You know, I just don't think it's a book I'm going to finish. I think it will just sort of be there.
Good to see you, Sarah.
Oh, it's good to see you too, Marcia. Very good.
Stephanie, would you like to say something? You just put all this stuff in the chat, and I guess you didn't get into a breakout room. So would you like to speak to the group, Stephanie? Are you there? Okay. Well, we're all reading what okay, but you don't want to say anything. Okay. Well, we all read about your dream that emphasized listen.
You know, the wonderful thing about having a group like this is that it becomes a normal. It's a form of normalcy to be able to speak and write about how how we know all this epistemology, how we know what we know, and to have it validated like this. I mean, it's absolutely unique. It's such a relief.
There's the word relief. Okay. That may be the word.
Yeah, it's a relief. I mean, it's oh, you know, it's like I'm nodding my head. It's a good thing I'm always muted because I'd be yakking around. But you know, it's like I'm going, yeah, 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 yeah. It's like it's a wonderful feeling. So I thank everyone all the time.
Well, it's 8:30 and I would like to, so we're officially over, but I would love to hear from someone who hasn't said anything. Or anyone. Or should we just call it a night? I'm not getting a feeling of what you all talked about in your groups, but
I'll say a little bit more about what we talked about in our group was just experiencing the uh, the reunion of ourselves with Earth and um, practicing language and also increasing these circles so that we can practice. We can come up with new wisdom sayings and that our daughters learn and all those sorts of things that create and hold our culture. So yeah, we talked about modeling. That's what I got from Deena's poem was she modeled for us how to re-emerge with Earth, and when she shifted from praying about rain to praying as rain.
ah, yes,
Yeah, so just
yes. The shift from
modeling.
praying to rain
Mm-hmm.
to praying as rain.
Well, actually, it was praying on behalf of rain, which was
Yeah, that's what you said.
Okay, either way, there was a significant shift because we always pray for
Yeah.
we'll say the commodity that we want it to do what we want it to do rather than, I think the ending part of that was she said the rain was liberated to be as rain is, and for rain to have the experience of being free and expressing rain's self. And so if even in, in our yards and our everyday life, if we are looking at, okay, what does this being need to be free to express the kin's self? How can we make that shift regularly? That's what comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Just continuing to apply in a broader sense, wonderful things that we're talking about.
Thank you. Well, okay, I think we should, Annie, do you want to end it and then we can just go on talking informally for those who want to stay? Or are there any famous last words that want to be said before we formally end?
I don't want to say any famous last words, but I was just going to say what our group talked about the theme of othering that was throughout and the dissolution of boundaries, and also how it ended with Deena talking about the dream and how all the parts of the dream were yourself. So you couldn't even other from yourself, which Chris brought up.
Right. So we began with you, Yehudit, and ended with that. I hadn't thought of that. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and just Yehudit, what this makes me think of is just the relief in inseparability. So when there is no separation, there is a relief, and that's what I am feeling with all of the writers that have spoken tonight. Is that what a relief not to be separate, and how much work it takes to be in the world in a place of separation.
Isn't that kind of what you said, Kristen? What was it you said?
I think it was similar, but I wasn't nearly as articulate as Anne. Thank you, Anne.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say that, and I so often talk about this, like Nancy, I remember the moment. So I remember the moment when we were sitting in a circle and Lisa got the idea of dark matter, of the anthology that would be based on people's dreams and that way of speaking. And she came at that point from a long history in an academic journal, and she was thrilled, or at least there were academic writers in the journal. Was thrilled by the possibility that just came through her. It was really a transmission, that there could be another kind of writing. It could be women's writing. It could be dream. The other realities and ways of knowing it. We thought she'd go through the roof. We did not know that we could keep her in this world. She was so excited.
Yeah.
But what came of it? It's such a beautiful, beautiful publication. And it was from the very first moment that it was visually perceived in the way it was, with the log trees on the side and everything that those images said and continue to say. And then this beautiful image here of the moons and this gorgeous anthology, which requires me
to always have a visual to go with.
Hold it, right? How can you read? But you don't want it to be less than this. So it's very beautiful. Thank you, Lisa, for
thank you, Deena.